friends, welcome back to Storytime with Mr. L. And today we have a very special video that I made with a bunch of teachers just last week talking about book talking and why do we book talk and how do we book talk and what are different ways to book talk and what are different kinds of books to book talking and how do we book talk to a kindergartner versus how do we book talk to a fifth grader and why is this important and how do we get kids to book talk and how do we book talk. A lot of teachers don't know about this kind of thing. And so it's really important if you have time to take these sessions, these teachers teaching teachers sessions, and really show people how they can do it in their own classrooms, how it's not a big frightening thing. So what you'll see is a little bit of me talking, and then we'll move into two video clips from Colby Sharp off of his YouTube channel. You'll be able to find those links in the notes down below the video today. Thank you, Colby, for letting me use that. Hope you don't mind. And then I will power book talk about 30 books. And I do this with classes pretty often. I get a stack of books like this, 10, 15, 20 books, and I'll book talk 30, 45 seconds per book, boom, 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 because the goal is the more books you book talk, the more maybe you're gonna find the book that's gonna speak to the reader. So I hope you enjoy this video about book talking. Thanks for coming, enjoy the video. I've prepared many slides, 312 to be exact, or 5. I want to talk to you today about how we share reading with our students and how important it is to share reading with our students and the value in showing our students that we care about what they're reading and that we're reading what they're reading, whether they're 3 or whether they're 11, it's just elementary folks. It matters that we are doing what they're doing and that they understand that we care what they're doing. And so that's what book talking is. Book talking is the ability to take a book and share it with students so that they will want to read it. And better yet, to get students to do that and so that they will have their friends want to read what they're reading. Because as many books as I talk about to kids, I can kill myself talking about a book. This is the greatest book in the world. And then their friend walks by and goes, yeah, it's pretty good. Off they go with the book. So we will move on. We're going to start with, what's your favorite book? It's the question I get all the time. Mr. L, what's your favorite book? What's your favorite book? And I would say I don't have one because I'm surrounded by amazing books. So right now, just turn to the person sitting next to you, and for about 30 seconds, what's your favorite book? Could everybody come up with a favorite book? Is it a book? Well, is it a book that you would share with a student or not? Yes. Okay, good. So what I want to do now is I want to introduce you to book talking, and instead of myself doing it, I'm going to let the two people who I get a lot of inspiration from online from these two folks. One is Colby Sharp, who's a 5th grade teacher in Michigan, and this is one of his books. I'll talk about it in a minute. And the other is Donalyn Miller, who is a 6th grade teacher in Texas, I believe. These are a couple of her books we'll talk about in a minute. So here's Colby and Donalyn just chatting about book talking.
Hello. Communicate in English easily. Use Grammarly and
Hey friends, I'm so excited to have my friend Donalyn Miller here. You know Donalyn from all of her great work in The Book Whisperer, Reading in Wild, in classrooms, in libraries, reading summits, conferences, on stage. She is an amazing advocate for children and for reading. And I was wondering, Donalyn, if you could tell people some tips that you have for book talking. Because I know the importance of book talking and how much people want to give book talks, but sometimes if you're just getting started, maybe you don't know how to give a book talk to kids.
We did some book talks today.
We did.
That was so much fun.
It was really fun.
Well, I mean, obviously the best way to prepare for a book talk is to read the book, because I think those heartfelt testimonials where you come into your classroom or you're talking to kids and you say, I love this book. I couldn't wait to tell you what it's about. You give them a little bit of information and then ask who would like to read the book. That works. That gets kids excited. They feed off our excitement. I know we can't always outread the kids.
We have a fly.
We have a fly in here who's trying to participate. We know we can't always outread the kids though, and we can never keep up with them. So if you don't have time to read the book, I think being transparent with kids and just letting them know, hey, I haven't had a chance to read this book yet, but here's what I've heard about it. How about I read the first couple of pages? Or you pick one poem out of it to read, or 1-2 page spread that you can share with kids. Anything to kind of get them excited. I don't think you have to make a big production out of it though. You don't have to write a script. You don't have to make it some kind of dog and pony show. I know if I had to do that every time I did a book talk, I would do a lot less book talking. And I would rather do them more often and make them more spontaneous. Now, we want to do book talks in the classroom with kids every day. Of course, our librarian colleagues are book talking when kids come to the library, and librarians kind of lean naturally into that. You want to take it to the next level, administrators doing book talks over the announcements, getting kids excited, or bringing in class of the week or community members to do book talks. And then ultimately, of course, we want to take that back to the kids, because no matter how good we are at making book recommendations to a 5th grader, the best person to make a book recommendation to a 5th grader is another 5th grader. So the modeling that we're doing with book talking is really teeing kids up to do book talking themselves. Also teaching kids how to stop talking. This is something I know because a lot of my students, they're in that book report mode of they need to tell you absolutely everything they know about the book, and it just goes on and on. And so I remember I did a mini lesson on how to stop talking about your book. I made a whole list of, we all know what a sentence starter is. I made a whole list of sentence enders, like how to just stop, which was a lot of fun. For about a month, every book talk in my classroom ended with, and the adventure continues, because that was the one on the poster the kids learned best. Had a lot of pizzazz. I think your enthusiasm for books is infectious to the kids, and so that, just be real, be authentic with it.
And one thing that I'll add, it doesn't have to be the whole class.
No.
You could book talk to a group, you could book talk to, you have some kids who are all reading The Land of Stories. Maybe you bring them one of Grace Lynn's books, or something like that. So, or one kid, maybe one kid has read Hatchet, and you said you want to book talk to them. And the kids love that personal touch. This is a book talk just for you.
Yeah. You know, we did that all day with your kids. We're like right in the classroom library, pulling out books. Then it feels more like a personalized recommendation. I mean, it is.
Because that's what it's going to look like in the room. And most likely, kids aren't going to stand up in their business meeting and talk about the latest Suzanne Collins book. Maybe. That would be perfect. That would be amazing.
I would like meetings a lot more if that happened.
So now it's your turn. One question you have for all of our wonderful friends watching.
So what's one book that you're enthusiastic about right now that you wish you could just find somebody to book talk it to? And I want to, empower you to do that.
Okay, so is there something right now, a book that you're reading, a book you've recently read, that you would love to show your class or someone in your class, or even a student in another class or another grade? Is there something in your mind that you're like, this book would be perfect for this person? Can you think of something? Turn to your partner, talk for just a minute. Is there something you can think of? So, it sounds like you do have books to book talk. Can you raise your hand if you've done a book talk with your class? A little bit, yeah, a little bit hard to say. And it's effective from early years all the way up. And we see, especially, that if you book talk to one student and they fall in love with a book, it's like a domino. You'll see it move through classes, and we see that in every grade. So here's just a few strategies. So you can give a brief summary of the book. What's it about? What's happening? What are the main events? You don't want to give away the ending, obviously. You just want to get them excited, give them a little taste. One thing that I do in here a lot is read a few pages or a few chapters of a book out loud. Of course, you all have time in your rooms to read whole books out loud. And that's that next point. Read one book of a series as a read aloud, and then book talk the rest of the series. It's so exciting when you see a student come in and get excited about a series, and they come in every week, I need the next book, I need the next book, or even every day for some kids, I need that next book, I need that next book. Talk about how the book made you feel and why. Maybe don't even talk about what the book is about. Maybe you just talk about, this is how this book made me feel, this is why it made me feel this way, and I think it might make someone else feel the same way. And most importantly, we talked about teaching your students to do this with each other, right? And you can do this all the way down to the lowest early years, KG, grade 1, where you teach your kids. I have a script if you want one that they can use, like, this is the name of the book, this is what it's about, this is why I liked it. Very easy for them to do. And kids really like that. It sort of empowers them to share their reading with others, because students often don't think about it, right? I've done surveys with secondary, and you ask how many of you actually share what you read. It's like a quarter. So these are kids, even if they love books, they keep that to themselves and they don't share that with their classmates. And if we want to live in a community of readers and teach in a community of readers, sharing our reading, taking that time to do that is super important. So you saw Colby Sharp in the last video, and that video was 6 years ago. And recently, I think in the last week or two, he's put out, he's on a big reading kick right now. And so he put out a video with the 4 things that we have to do to get kids reading. And I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I do want to show this community piece. And I'll share this presentation with you if you want to watch the other 3 sections about time and choice and access. But the community part sort of speaks to what we're talking about today with sharing our reading.
Let's go. Number 4. I think round 4, I think this is the last one that I have for you today, is community. Community is key. Grade is just really important, okay? We live in a classroom for 7 hours a day, 180 days a year. 7, I don't know how this but it's magical because it's filled with kids and grown up that love reading. And we talk about books, and kids book talk books, and kids pass books from one kid to another. And when a new book comes out, they're so excited, and they can't wait to read it. They'll be the first one to read it and then pass it to someone else. And they love reading with each other. I mean, think about it. Think about like a classroom of independent reading. Teacher is bouncing from kid to kid, group to group, reading with kids, giving them little nudges, little tips, teaching them little things. 20 plus kids are all reading together. There's never really going to be a spot in their lives where they're surrounded by that many people reading at once. It's kind of would be weird, right? If you walked into a room and like 25 people, adults were just like reading quietly. I can't imagine. But we created this community in our classroom, and I'm sure you're doing the same with the readers that you serve. That helps kids to read more. And I think that when we can give them time, access, choice, and community, magical things, special things, remarkable things can happen, not only in our classrooms, but more importantly in the lives of those kids that are part of that. So thank you for when you are doing your work, when you were planning your weeks, when you were planning your lessons, when you were sitting with kids, for thinking about time, access, choice, and community. I'll be making more videos about this whole reading more thing that I'm obsessed with right now, and time and access, community, and choice. Thank you for what you do for kids. Thank you for helping them to grow as readers. My name is Schu. Have an awesome testing day.
So,
Let's go. Number 4. I think round 4. I think this is the last one that I have for you.
so after Colby,
Let's go. Number 4.
there we go. All right. And so I want to book talk to you, and I'm not necessarily going to book talk each of these books, but I'm going to book talk the types of books you can book talk, if that makes sense. There's a lot of reasons why you would book talk something to your students, and there's a lot of reasons why you would share a book and why you think that a student might want to read it. So that is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go through a whole bunch of stuff. I've got stuff all the way from our young folks all the way up to upper elementary. And I'm going to start with actually the books for you. since we just were watching Colby and Donalyn. So Donalyn's first book, The Book Whisperer, is what I think required reading for anyone who teaches reading. She talks about how she got every sixth grader in her class to average 40 books per year, right? Even her low readers in like the 20 to 30 range. And it's because reading is part of their life, it's part of their day, it's part of everything they do, it's embedded into everything in their class. And so she gives all of her tips and strategies and charts and interest surveys that you can give to students and find out what their reading lives look like now and how that they can expand those reading lives. And she has kids read across 9 genres. So this genre is like 7 books, and this one is 5 books, and this one is 3, and this one is choice. And it's a pretty amazing way of looking at reading. And so she followed that up with reading in the wild, which we want all of our students and ourselves to be wild readers, to read all the time, to read every time that we get a chance, to have those stolen moments when we're sitting on buses, when we're sitting on subways, when we're using audiobooks, when we're out for a walk or doing dishes or doing the laundry. We can be reading all the time, and our kids feed off of that. And they know that we're readers because we're in the class and we're talking about it. We're coming in and saying, this weekend I read this book and it was amazing. Yes, it's written for adults, but I have to tell you all about it because I'm so excited. Or, no, it's perfect for you. I got it from the library, and somebody in the class has to read it because I'm so excited about it. So these 2 books, I think everybody should read if you teach reading, which all of you teach reading. So those 2. The other professional one I have is written by a man named Schu, known internationally as Mr. Schu, and former teacher, former librarian, became a book ambassador. John just travels around giving books away and talking to kids about books. That's his whole job. And this particular book is The Gift of a Story, and it looks at the 5 different ways, 5 elements of story: healer, inspiration, clarifier, compassion, and connector. There's a lot of interviews in here with other librarians, teachers, authors. There's a lot of book recommendations in here that go with these themes throughout the book. And John has also gotten into the world of picture books. So this is a story, this is a school, 2 beautiful books that he's written. Not illustrated, but written as well. So if you get a chance, John Schu. Also, online, great people to follow: Donalyn, John, and Colby Sharp. This one I love to give to kids. Kids love to read it because it is 44 short stories written by 44 different authors who Colby sent out the call, and he got 44 prompts, story starters from different authors. And then he took those 44 prompts and he mixed them up and he sent them back to those 44 authors, and they wrote the stories. And some are photos and some are comics, and some are short stories and some are poems. And kids love it because you don't have to read it front to back. You can just jump in anywhere you want. And this one, super fun to read aloud, even for, I'd say, grade 1, grade 2, some of these stories, for kids to really just get into. They're like, oh, I know that author. Oh, I've heard of that author. Oh, this is their story. This is their story. So really fun. All right, where do I want to begin? I'm going to start here. I know that you all are super busy with teaching. I was in the homeroom for years, and I know it's hard to find time to come to the library, and it's hard to find time to give your kids choice time to read, because we want them to be learning to read, and we're really focused on those activities. So a few sections in the library that are good for different levels. One is this section behind Jenny, which is our early fiction section, and that would be books that look like this. You're all familiar with books that look like this, and some of them, like Otto here, only have 1 sentence per page. Right? But what it is like such a way to be successful with reading, right? To come and get this early fiction, and some of the longer ones that were available when we were kids and are still available have a lot more words, but you're like, this is a chapter book. There's 3, there's 4, there's 5 chapters, and you can come and you can be successful and finish reading a book, right? In comparison to a picture book, which is a lot more difficult to read, and the success level is not the same. So picture books, I always think, are great things to read with mom and dad, and And then once you get a little bit, maybe into first grade, sometimes second grade, sometimes third grade, you start reading picture books on your own. You can have books like Isamu, which is a true story of a boy here in Japan. You know, stories like Whale Fall, which is nonfiction in terms of what happens to the carcass of a whale when it falls to the bottom of the ocean, and how many years does it support life on the bottom of the ocean. And then you go funny, right? No one likes a fart, but every kid does. Every kid, I know Jenny and I were talking about in her class, she's got kids farting all the time.
Yeah, we had a lesson about it.
They had a lesson about it, you know, what do you do? But, right, so we want to get kids excited about books that we're excited about. Or grammar books, You Loves You, which kids love. It's like I Am a Donkey, which is the other one by C.C. Bell. She's also a graphic novelist. This kind of stuff, for read aloud purposes, so good. It's like gold. Remember, the more excited you are about a book, the more excited they are about the book. When I read a book out loud, 90% of the time somebody takes it home. Even though they just heard it 2 seconds ago. They like what's familiar. All right, we'll just sort of move up the way. Back in the back are those plastic tubs. Those are what we call our super series. And they are great because, one, most of them don't have to be read in order. And two, most of them, there's like a million books in each series. And so if someone falls in love with a series like Owl Diaries, they can come back and read all 18 that we have. Because it's fun and it's cute, and you can try to get boys to read it. You can definitely usually get girls to read it. And grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, Captain Underpants, all the way up through our 5th grade, and now all in color, the entire series. So you do find everybody wants to read this, whether they're in kindergarten or 5th grade. Captain Underpants always a winner. When I taught 1st grade, I feel bad about this still, I told my kids they couldn't read it because I said it was inappropriate.
But it's so funny.
But it's so funny because I hadn't read it, right? And so all these kids would be like, Mr. L, can I take this? I'd be like, no. And now I'm saying, oh my gosh, what was I doing? You gotta let kids take whatever they want, because that's the excitement. You know, Erica has a student who every week takes Harry Potter home. Mr. L, can I have Harry Potter? Which one? Book 6, please. Yes.
I wonder who that is.
He takes it because he loves it. But if you tell these kids no, if you tell them no, you can't have it, you're just squashing their love, right? So you can talk about these books and how exciting they are. Right? Princess in Black, you can talk about a series about a princess who does all kinds of wild adventures and things, and she wears black and she rides a horse who wears black and no one knows who she is and it's a mystery. Or books that I always say are scary, but they're not really scary. But elementary libraries don't have very many scary books. So things like The Haunted Backpack, you know? Some kids, all they want to read about is sports. We've got tubs and tubs of books about sports. They don't even want to read it sometimes. They just want to look at the pictures. They want to take it home and show their dad or their mom or their brother. All right, so there's all these things, you know. I want 5 books about Ronaldo. Okay, how about 3 and we'll get something else. But we want to get that excitement going. Weirdo, this poor kid, his parents named him Weir, and his last name is Doe. It's a pretty harsh name to have. And it's full of pictures and all kinds of things. It's like that bridging thing between early fiction and fiction, you know, before you get to Wimpy Kid style, which is a little bit harder than this. Okay, you guys are doing great. Then, super series and fiction in general, like our Magic Treehouse, is also going graphic. And it's doing that because kids love graphic novels, and kids should be reading graphic novels all the time. I do tell students, take a graphic novel and something else. I want to make sure that they're reading across genres and across styles of writing. But it's so exciting. They're like, oh, I love the Magic Treehouse. There's a 3rd grader who loves Magic Treehouse, and I showed him these, and he was like, oh my gosh, my mind. So excited. Same thing, I Survived. We have so many students who are reading these chapter books. They're only about 100 pages long. And now all of a sudden there's graphic novels to go with them. They're like, this is the greatest thing ever. So we want to just keep that excitement going. Oh, you read the graphic novel? Have you tried the regular novel? Oh, you read the regular novel? Have you tried the graphic novel? And having these conversations with our students. So we'll talk about graphic novels for a minute. Now, why would you book talk a graphic novel? Because they're amazing. Because the vocabulary content is higher than regular novels. Because the issues are deeper. Not necessarily deeper, but graphic novels can go into so much for so many students who struggle with reading. Or even for students who love reading and are great readers. You might want to have a personal connection to a book. Like Dan Santat's A First Time for Everything. Because this is the first time Dan went to Europe as a 14-year-old with a bunch of kids he didn't know on a school trip. And all the crazy shenanigans he got up to, and all the stuff that he talks about in the back that would never be allowed to happen today. Because this was the early 90s, and Dan did all kinds of things in Europe. Some students, like we talked about, are nonfiction kids. We have a whole section of these science comics. And they stretch from everything from the brain to the plague to whales to dogs and cats and bats and all kinds of things, cars. And they just love getting into this stuff, right? We see especially early years, KG, grade 1, grade 2, how much they love nonfiction, and this is a very logical kind of next step for them. And then there's my personal favorite, Phoebe and Her Unicorn, which is one of those series that's written on 2 different levels. One level for kids, one level for adults. Adults read this and they're like, this is hilarious. Kids read it, this is hilarious. Totally different jokes. So you can find these things if you take the time to come in and read them, get into them and talk with your students about them. There's new characters like Katie and the cat sitter. And then there's old characters like Charlie Brown. And it's great to recommend both. I was reading Charlie Brown when I was in your grade. Katie and the Cat Sitter came out last year. Characters can stay amazing. New characters can come out that are also amazing. Those are pretty thick. We want to think about our early, younger readers. We need our skinnier graphic novels. Narwhal. Super fun. Great for every age. Right? Books like the Archie and Reddy series. Again, 1 or 2 sentences per page. So great for every age as well. Graphic novels. I always recommend them every day. All right, I'm gonna do one more quick stack and then I'll let you guys peruse and look at books and have your own book time. When I'm thinking about traditional books, traditional novels, middle grade reading, this is kind of what I'm looking at. So one of the biggest trends in writing right now is novels in verse, which are much more readable because they're written in poetry. And so it's just not that many words on a page. And you can get books like Otter, which is based on a true story about how the folks in San Francisco Bay have rescued and rehabilitated otters, and we've gone from having 50 otters left in the world to over 3,000. It's a quite good success story. You can talk about books that are about important topics, like kids calling each other names and how those names never go away. And if you're called something, it stays with you for life, impacts how you eat, how you view yourself, how you treat yourself, right? Heavy topics, but still a novel in verse. And a lot of these kinds of things are also great class read-alouds. I mean, this one obviously, 5th grade maybe, probably not 3rd. Favorite authors. I always talk about Gordon Corman with students because I love Gordon Corman. We have like 15 of his books on the shelf. I've read them all. And as a librarian, I know I should be reading all kinds of different things, but every new Gordon Corman book, I have to read it. You know, you can read about Cameron Boxer who just wants to play video games all the time. His parents are so grumpy with him. Do something else at school, so he creates an ASA, a fake ASA, and he's the president, and his parents are so proud. And then all the kids find out, and 800 kids join his ASA. Now he's the president of the biggest ASA in the school. Or you can read a few pages like Ben Yokoyama in the Notebook and the Cookie of Doom. Ben split his cookie in two. Oh, you don't have to start on page 1. You can start anywhere you want. And he found his own strip of paper inside, and here's what it said. Live each day as if it were your last. Oh boy, said Ben, his mind devouring the wisdom like a black hole devours planets and stars. And he thought about his fortune all the way home, and he thought about it as he walked past the dining room table where his parents were paying bills, and he thought about it as he brushed his teeth and put on his pajamas and got into bed, and then he dreamed about it, and everything was different now. Suddenly, a lifetime had become a single day. And this is a Sakura book. And you can talk about Sakura books, because that's what we're doing all the time. KG, grade 1, grade 2, they're reading them in class, 3, 4, and 5. Like Lonnie Quick, who every time he touches something that's dying can bring it back to life. But unfortunately for Lonnie, every life that he gives to something he loses from himself. So he lives his whole life in this push and pull of, should I do it, should I do it? But he has these horrible buzzing sounds in his head and his face if he doesn't do it. So do you walk away or do you not walk away? What's worth saving? Or like Donalyn said, talk about a book you haven't read. I've not read Space Boy. I've read a couple of David Williams books. He's funny. He's a TV comedian from Britain. People really like him. I like some of his books. I think you would like some of his books, but I haven't read this one, and then you can read the inside flap together. Or try and get them sold on a big series, like a 15-book series like The Wings of Fire, which is about 5 dragons that are out to save the dragon world, but they were chosen as eggs, so they've been raised their whole lives to go out and save the world, which maybe they do, or maybe they don't want to do, because it wasn't really their choice. Or you can talk about books that are non-fiction, like Bugs in Danger, and how important all bugs are to our planet, even the gross, yucky bugs. Because you know, cockroaches and ladybugs are in the same bug family. And when a ladybug lands on us, we go, oh, so cute. When a cockroach lands on us, we scream and run away. But they're the same, and they're both uber important. And some kids love to read nonfiction, and some kids love science, and books like this are great. Or you can recommend a book about current events, like New From Here, which takes place during COVID, and a family who flees Hong Kong to escape COVID, and they flee to the US because they'll be safe there. And of course, COVID comes, and all the racism that they do with being Chinese in America during COVID, and all of these things. So there are so many reasons to book talk a book, and so many kinds of books you can book talk, and your kids will benefit from all of it. And the more you read what they read, the more that they will read, because they'll know that you value what they're reading.